let's start with a question to Mr. Sinha. In your arguments, you repeatedly highlighted the importance of respecting the Constitution as well as its provisions, which is also another way of saying to respect democracy. But at the same time, shouldn't it be worrying to our nation that India has been under a constant state of democratic backsliding since Narendra Modi was elected PM?
I wouldn't agree with that at all. I would say that, as the Honorable Prime Minister did on his first day of coming to Parliament, is that he bows before the temple of democracy, and he said very clearly that the Constitution is my holy book. I know for a fact that all of our senior leaders are committed to democracy, they're committed to the Constitution, and those are the absolute principles that we always follow.
But when you say that, and this is in response to something that Dr. Tharoor said, that he gave the example of a young Hindu-Muslim family who were planning to leave the country or were worried that their child was being asked about his or her religion in school. How would you react to that? What would you tell that child? That there's a constitution of this country that Dr. Ambedkar gave us. Don't worry, you'll be okay. It's just a book. They want reality. These youngsters want you to walk the talk. If these youngsters read about misuse of agencies, targeting of opponents, the fact that our institutions are seen to be compromised, how do you expect them to remain idealistic?
Rajdeep, those are very good questions, and of course we are asked those questions every day in our constituencies with the people that we interact with. And let me assure everyone, you are protected by the Constitution, you are protected by us because we are committed to your freedom, to your liberty, and to your constitutional rights. So you're fully protected by us. And whether it is, our state governments or whether it is our national government, we have always honestly and truthfully followed the Constitution. And for those that believe that the Constitution is not being protected, it's being violated in any way, the Supreme Court has a very powerful instrument that you can use, which is a public interest litigation. As far as the constitutional rights are concerned that you have, anytime you believe your fundamental human rights are being violated, you can go directly to the Supreme Court and file a PIL to that regard.
Okay. What's your question to Dr. Tharoor?
Yes, for my second question, to point out something in both of your arguments, you praised one of the provisions of the Constitution which allows according to you, to allow the people to choose who and whom they wish to marry. However, as we all know, the Supreo versus Union case earlier this year did not release a proper verdict regarding the legalization of same-sex marriage. And one can say that the influence of both parties, both BJP and Congress, influenced this. With BJP obviously doing their usual, it violates our religion, culture and traditions. And then we have Congress, which continues its streak of not doing anything. It's stating that there are more.
Okay.
And Congress, which
I'll just
short a minute.
Go on.
And Congress, which continues its streak of not doing anything, stating that there are more important issues to handle than gay marriage. Now, in Congress's words, does more important issues constitute Rahul Gandhi getting new beard styles and running a marathon under the name of Jodo India?
Okay. By the way, I think in the course of this debate, we have found a good young moderator and a future politician. But let's be very clear. Before I come to Dr. Tharoor,
moderator? Or?
Yeah, before I come to Dr. Tharoor, I want a show of hands. How many of this audience actually believes that the Supreme Court should legislate and allow, if people want to have same-sex marriages, they should be allowed? I hope you're watching Mr. Sinha and Dr. Tharoor.
Absolutely.
Our politicians may be behind the time. This is South Mumbai, of course. But you want to respond to him?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the young gentleman, Siddharth, may not realize that I am the only MP who tried twice to get Section 377 of the Penal Code decriminalized. That is, that prohibited homosexual relationships and lesbian relationships by saying that they were against the order of nature. I tried, and it was Mr. Jayany Sinha's party that twice opposed the introduction of my bill and voted it down twice. So, and let me say they did so with some very salacious and petty remarks, which I won't dignify by repeating in front of all of you, but that was the attitude taken, at which point I advised some of the petitioners in what became the very famous case that turned the tables, that the only way you're going to do this, as long as the BJP has a majority in our parliament, you will have to go the court, the judicial route. And that's what they did, and they finally got it decriminalized by the Supreme Court. Now this larger issue of same-sex marriage is there. As far as I'm concerned, I recognize that my stand is a minority one, that even in my party there'll be many who disagree with me. My argument is, if their disagreement is based on an emotional word like marriage, many countries have gone through an intermediate stage of a civil contract kind of arrangement. The most important thing is that in a loving relationship between two people, that the dearest person to you should have the kinds of rights that in a heterosexual marriage a spouse would have. And those rights, if you're not able to bring it in through the word marriage, bring it in through a civil society, a civil or social partnership contract, which can easily be done under the Special Marriages Act, provided the court allows it for people irrespective of their gender. So there are solutions possible. I cannot speak about Rahul Gandhi's beard. I think he looks pretty good, clean-shaven, but, you know, there are others who have different views. But I can tell you that as far as the Congress Party is concerned, we are free to express our own opinions. And even though there was no agreed party position on what I did it not just once, but twice in the House. And to this point, nobody ever said, why are you doing this from my party? So we can stand up for what we believe in. We just have to have the political courage to do that. It may not work, but it's worth trying.
Good question. But before I move to the next question, let me just ask both of you. Mr. Jayany Sinha, if there's a view that Mr. Narendra Modi has and you don't agree with it, can you go up to him and say, Mr. Prime Minister, I don't agree with you?
Absolutely. We have the ability within the party to have very open discussions on many important and sensitive topics. And of course, we discuss and debate most of these important issues in that fashion. And if you have a different point of view, you can express it with the senior leadership of the party. But once the party has an official line, then of course, we follow the official line. But within the party, of course, you have any number of opportunities to express your views.
Is that an honest answer?
Yes, absolutely.
Or a politically correct answer?
No, it's an absolutely honest answer. I myself have met with the senior leadership on many occasions and had long discussions on many important topics.
Okay. Dr. Tharoor, can you disagree and say, Rahul Gandhi, I don't agree with you? And still survive in the Congress party?
Yes. No, we've also had conversations at various times about issues in which we didn't necessarily see eye to eye. But I think it's more challenging when you're in power, because disagreements when you're in opposition essentially are theoretical or idea-based. When you're in power, they're about policy decisions that you can make or not make. And that's the kind of thing where I hope that what Jayant says actually translates into people who currently seem to be impervious to other people's opinions actually receiving a few and getting them done.